Hello, hello. Let me switch back my camera. Just let me know how the audio is and if I don't just suddenly lose control of this. We'll start with yours first, Greta, since you're here first. Hello, welcome, welcome. Long time no see. It's been a while since we've got the whole 2/3 of the gang here. So we'll start with Greta regarding how to transform a pose into a character. So first things first, I'm going to increase the size of the canvas because I just hate how her leg is like 2 centimeters from the border. To be fair, I haven't made as much art as I want due to the move and just settling into everything. But if you've noticed, my room is no longer green, so I've moved to a new place. But I promise I have been working on this month's tutorial, which is going to be about how like bodies interact. So there will be stuff about how to draw 2 people poses, hugging, holding hands, kisses, that kind of thing. Yes, bet your ass moving is stressful. I moved like April 10th, so like the beginning of the month, so it still took me a while to get all my furniture set up and like decorate my room. Exactly, 2 people poses are hard, so let's talk about some ways to simplify it, make it a little bit easier. But it just comes down to a lot of practice, so I won't say that it will be super easy day 1, but it will eventually get to the point where you can kind of do whatever pose you want. Okay, let's start with the pose. I'm gonna get rid of the color just for now, so we're not stressing about that. Also the glasses, not stressing about that. But in terms of changing the body type to be more close to Tao, I think you got that really well. She is a little bit more muscular, a little bit more thick and taller body type. Only things I would do a little bit of changes is just the way we kind of demonstrate or showcase the pose, like the action line of it. So in the original pose, let's see, where is everything? Okay, if you see in the original pose, if you draw a line through her spine, you'll be able to kind of see what I mean by the action line. So her spine kind of curves this way, so if I draw like an imaginary halfway point through her whole pose, both knees are going to sit on the right side, whereas the hip is kind of leaning more towards that left. But if I kind of apply that to yours, so I find the middle, or I draw the little line through the spine, you'll see it's a little bit straighter, not as curved towards the right. Hello, full gang here. Let's go, gang, gang. Let's see if we can get rid of some of our art burnout this stream. So first things I would do is I would kind of shift over her hips a little bit in order to make that feel a little bit more accurate. So we'll just use our liquify tool to kind of do this quickly. Shoop, 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 shoop. And it's not a matter of like moving her whole hip, it's just a matter of like placing where the edge of the hip ends. So typically when you have like more extreme poses where people are kind of moving around, a lot of the original proportions, so say if she had like wider hips or, you know, very hourglass figure, that kind of gets lost in translation when they are in movement. So don't let that kind of trip you up and feel like, oh, I have to follow like, hey, she's an hourglass, so that means her hip should be wider, her hip should be wider than her waist, right? So especially for Tao, you can kind of communicate like, hey, she does have like a wider set hip by just making this part of her thigh a little bit wider and make it a little bit longer, so it kind of feels like, hey, she is like a mature ass woman. She's not she's not like elf proportions. And then we're just gonna shrink down her leg, because if you look at the size of this part of the leg versus this side of her femur, right, this is much shorter versus this one, so we kind of gotta make them match just a little bit better. So we'll bring it down just a tad bit so we don't feel like she's goofing up. And we'll also give a little bit more space for where that thigh should really be. Because if you can imagine 3D wise, like a cylinder. So if we're saying that this is as wide as how her thigh should be, that same thickness should still apply for on this side, right? Like, do you see how like this part right here is totally missing? And if I draw it right here, oops, is this high enough? No. So if I draw it right here, how thick it is, it's equally as thick on the other side, right? So that means we do have to give a little bit more space. Where did I put it? Here. We do have to give a little bit more space when it comes to the thigh area, and you can kind of cheat a little bit if it helps you to draw a circle right here and just bring it over so you know, like, hey, when I'm drawing the thigh, I have to make sure I have to give enough space for that thigh to actually exist. Otherwise, we're gonna look like wonker bazonkers. So in that case, maybe we'll just cheese it a little bit and scoot the chair over just a little bit, just so that there's a little bit more space. We'll scoot it over just a tad bit, not too much. So now the thickness of the thigh has been established. I'm going to establish the direction of the foot or the leg, and then you can kind of fill in the space and just make sure, hey, her thigh should be this wide. So I'm going to make sure I show a little bit of that. Show a little bit of that underside, which you can kind of see a little bit. It just gets hidden by the rest of her calf. And to make it feel a little bit more like she is leaning against the chair, we can kind of create a little bit of a lump, so kind of a curve shape where the leg is kind of smushing into the chair. So instead of just doing, you know, a pure straight line against the chair like this, which can feel a little bit stiff, I'm going to follow the shape of the chair in order to complete the leg like that. And that's going to give that feeling like, hey, her leg is part of that environment and she's smishing into it. Right? Sick ass chair. That's why I didn't want to delete it. It's just getting a little bit bigger. Okay, and then just filling in that belt. And then just double checking that her foot is in the right spot. So if we drew the leg right here, the foot should probably just scoot over a little bit. Scoot. And I usually just like to find where the butt, where the round curve part of the butt is, and then I just draw a line according to the direction of the body. So if we're saying, you know, the figure is sitting in this direction, everything should line up in that same direction. The butt, you know, this doesn't, the two butts don't work independently. You don't have one butt cracks facing one direction. So that's why we have to kind of keep everything in line. And then you can just add back some of those wrinkles in the pant leg, which some might be sticking out a lot more like that, or some might be more subtle like that. Just depends on how you want to do your pant legs. So exaggerate just a little bit so we can see that, hey, this is a fold. And then let me fill in the chair that I erased for you. And then we always want to kind of remind ourselves that every fabric is going to drop down unless there's like wind or something holding it up. So if it's kind of folding over her arm right here, it's gonna, after it ends off her arm, it's gonna start drooping down towards there. And you can create a little fold right here to show like, hey, this is the opening where the armhole is. And then there's some folds that are happening because the arm is stretching the back of the jacket. And then we'll just exaggerate the hoodie part of it. I would also add this part of the hand because that's typically a fold. So let me switch to a bigger view of me. So if we're looking at our hand, this is a very distinct edge of the hand that needs to exist in order for us to feel like, hey, this is one section of the hand, this is another section of the hand. And if I'm still holding it like this, there might be a little bit of gap that shows underneath it. So go ahead and just fix the position of the thumb so it's not so raised up. And that way the hand will look a little bit more natural. And then in terms of this arm, I feel like your option would be to just make the chair bigger so that her arm can sit on the chair, because right now it kind of feels like she's gonna fall off the chair. Because when you're sitting on a chair, I don't think you usually want to have your arm hanging off of the handle unless you're like, you know, putting your whole elbow on the handle. So we'll go ahead and kind of extend this also. Scoot, scoot, scoot. I'll scoot it over this way. And then in doing so, we'll be able to kind of bring up her arm just a little bit, because you see the length of this arm right here. So if I draw a line, you want to make sure they match basically. Right, so this looks about the right size. Okay, so that's the size. We want to make sure it's the same size. Yeah, the chair is probably too small for her. If it's like too small, typically your options are to focus on making, yeah, so because she's smaller, right? But since Tao is bigger, you just have to make the chair a little bit wider, but you can still portray like, hey, she is of a larger body type, more muscular type, just based on how we do the proportion. So like, we're not going to do very skinny rib cages. We're not going to do very narrow shoulders. We're going to do wider shoulders, wider rib cages, wider hips in order to communicate like, hey, she is of that stockier body type. So even if we do have, say, even if you do have, say, like a bigger chair just to fit her better, she'll still read as like, hey, she is, you know, a different body type versus that elf. So now we're just gonna go ahead and put her elbow back on that chair so she's not dangling, finagling. And then in doing so, because her jacket can't just, you know, phase through the chair, we'll have to bring the jacket back in. And we can have like maybe the jacket kind of fold over the chair like this, because it's a pretty big, hefty jacket, if I remember. Okay, that way things will look a little bit more reasonable and more makes sense. Because I don't ever sit on a chair and I just dangle my arm up. I'm gonna be honest, I'm lazy, so we all want something to support our arms when we're sitting in a chair. So we likely probably won't do something like have something heavy. TO8 references. Let's see. Where is it? Yeah, she's like she got that small head, big body, right? So if you really want to keep that same proportion type, we could totally also make her head just a little bit smaller, so she's gonna read as more mature. Like, I'm not making it like crazy small, just a little small. Let me see if I can somehow fix this liquify. Oops. It's not ideal. Oops. Okay. I think it's hard for me to do it that way. Let's try it this way. And then I just gotta make sure she's still following where the spine is. Okay, and then I'll fix the weirdness a bit. So just making sure her head is round enough so I didn't squish anything by accident. And then I'll widen her shoulders just a little bit so that we can have that even spacing. So, you know. And we'll just push down her shoulder on the other side so we get that contrapposto kind of idea. So we'll have one angle this way and the hips are angled the opposite way. And that's going to give more dynamicism to the pose. So I'll try to raise this shoulder up just a little bit and bring this down just a little bit, not too much. Oops, where's my... Not here, not this one, not this one. This one? Yeah. Not sure if you wanted to do like her boots or not. I mean, you don't have to, but it might be something cool to do. And it'll bring a little bit more shape to her legs. So she wears these slight flare jeans or skinny jeans. Her original design was skinny jeans, but I honestly think the flare is such a good move. It's like a boss ass move. So we'll keep with that. We'll try to do a little bit more flare so that way it elongates her leg a little bit more. So that means we'll have to widen this pant leg just a tad bit. And just add a heel. And in doing so, you can kind of hide the back side of the leg and cheat a little bit. So you'll be able to cheat like that, so you won't have to see, you know, most of the pant. I mean, I get technically maybe her like foot underneath her leg doesn't have to be boots. Like she could be just, I don't know, like she has a boot somewhere. Okay, just ignore how ugly this boot is, but the idea is like you could have like a pair of boots just sitting somewhere. Yeah, probably put it somewhere here because that's where she would likely have her boots. Sick ass boot. I know. Okay, it's just a very rough boot. It's not. I'm not a shoe expert. I don't design shoes for a reason. But yeah, maybe she might have boots here and then she could just have socks here instead. That way it makes sense for her to put her foot underneath her other leg. And then when it comes to the colors, I would totally emphasize that this is one big section. So let's see where colors are. And we'll break up the shape a little bit because if you see right here, there's obviously, because the shirt is so stretched across her big bahangas, there needs to be some wrinkles going on here and there. And we'll break it up. And bring on this highlight a little bit more. So a higher contrast. And I wouldn't be afraid to also add just a little bit of that shading with the soft brush towards the middle of her abs. And so mix and match between soft brush and the hard brush in order to create a little bit more realism. Let me fix the color because I goofed up on you. Oops. Let's see if I can fix this one. I just swear, it's just a very stylistic choice that they decided to make her chest humongous in comparison to her body type, because I'm gonna be honest, she probably would be thicker overall if she had such a big chest. Like, I just don't imagine seeing her being able to hold up that big bahanga. Okay, that's the best I can do to fix that. She actually would topple over. She'd be like one of those bobblehead figures with a huge head. Let me just fix this one thing that's bothering me. Because this would technically be the side of her chest, so it really wouldn't have that sharp point. Actually, I feel like her cup might be, if we're thinking about the light coming down this way, the cup shadow would probably lean on top. And then we'll just add back some light here so we get that cool shading. Some cool shadow shapes. Let's see if we can fix the chair. Kind of. Heck yeah! You should show us when it arrives. Can't wait to see them. I bet they look sick. Okay, so something like that. And then let's make her wider there. Okay, just pretend the chair is decent shape. Okay, so let's also talk about the folds in the pants and how to shape that. So I know folds are hard. Doesn't get easier unless you do like a shit ton of practice with folds. Even now, sometimes I have to look up references because there are certain folds that I just can't comprehend in my head. The chair is an armchair. I mean, maybe. Let's see, cover that up. So my recommendation for you, start with like a general medium shade, like not shadow color, but also not highlight color. And just shade it according to like just the basic shape. So like if we're talking about the light coming from top down, the top of the knee is obviously going to catch a lot more light. So when we're shading it, you can just use a blocky brush first and just mark out like, hey, okay, so this is going to get light, this is going to get shadow, right? After you're done, then you can kind of look at some of the major folds that you've already drawn in there. So I see that we're going to have some folds in here. So the top of the fold is going to catch that light. The bottom, maybe not so much. Maybe they're just a little bit here and there. And to break up the shape just a little bit, using that same blocky brush, you can kind of just add a little bit of shape variation to your shadow, right? Like I'm not adding too much highlights. And in order to kind of create that rounded shape that this, you know, wide like pants is, we're gonna add some more shadows. So let me lock this layer and we're gonna use a soft brush because unless it's a very hard fold where you're basically like folding a paper in half, but fabric style, it's not gonna have harsh edges. Instead, it's gonna have very soft edges. So we'll go ahead and kind of use a big soft brush and kind of just add some shadow. And we're gonna break up the shape. So if we're saying that this part right here is like a fold that kind of juts out a little bit, you want to make sure that the edge of the fold right here, we can see that it's shadowy. So I'm gonna make this part lighter and this part a little bit darker. And you're gonna shade it like you would a cone. So if you don't know how to shade a cone, now's a good chance to understand your 3D shades. So you want to start with a general shade, so not too dark, not too light. You'll decide where the light's coming from, so maybe the light's coming from this way, right? You'll start with a blocky brush to make your life easier. We'll go ahead and kind of just mark out where that shadow would be. So the shadow's going to sit right in the center because the light's coming from the right side, and it's going to create sort of this darkest shadow wherever the light kind of drops off. And now because it is a cone, it's round, so it's not going to have this actual harsh edge. Instead, we're going to take our soft brush, take that same base color for the cone, we're going to soften it up, use a big soft brush to kind of make it look like it's transitioning, kind of turning around the cone a little bit more. And you can see that this shape is very similar to how this might be, except it's like a smaller version of it. If I draw and make this longer, do you see how it kind of mimics this a little bit, right? So you can kind of think of those very wide pant legs similar to a cone when it comes to shading. And obviously you can add back some highlights at that very crest or the little peak of that turn. And behind that shadow, there might be a little bit of bounce light, and you can just leave a little bit of lighter section. So that's how I would consider thinking about pants legs or anything like billowy, like capes, dresses, things that are like not wrinkled together. So like there's no harsh folds. So we can go ahead and just take a slightly lighter color and just very lightly add a little bit of a highlight right down the middle. And that's going to help you create that rounded shape. And for these really deep areas where it's like folded in and there's no chance of it catching light. Obviously we're going to darken it up. And you can kind of darken up the bottom side of the leg also, because again, that's not going to catch as much light. So we'll go ahead and darken it up some more. But if the ground is like a shiny reflective material, or like, you know, there's a little bit of light, you can imagine like it's a brighter environment, then maybe some of the light might catch underneath the leg. So you can take the background color, go down, make it not so bright, so you're not just directly, you know, applying that light in there. We'll just go ahead and add a little bit very lightly to the bottom side of the leg where it might catch some of that light. And I'll fix your belt real quick. And the same idea goes for a cup. You want to make sure we have very clear edges, and then some of those edges might fade off a little bit softer, so you have some variation, so it's not all the same. And we might have some really harsh highlights in some areas, especially for like a ceramic cup. You know, it's very shiny, very limited in terms of how it absorbs the light. You'll still want to add some shadows too. So when you have some time, obviously you're not done with this, but this would be where I would add some of those shadows. So underneath the cup handle right here, wherever it's not going to catch light. And then I'll just lighten up some of the chair so we get that general look of light. So I'm going to go towards my magentas and then go gray. That way you can make it look like it's purple light. Oops. And then we can go just a little bit lighter, a little bit cooler in order to do some highlights. Yes, the chair finally gets some love. Sorry if I decided that the pose is more important. Oops. Okay, so it seems there's just a little bit of light on the sides of the chair. So that way your chair can feel like it's part of the lighting environment. I obviously didn't add any shadows to this, but you can always add the basic shadows. I would say is that inside part of the jacket is very, very important to be. And then all the other shadows are kind of just secondary, so you can kind of play around with whatever you feel like you want to add as much shadow. Like this is the basic shadows that we need, but you can obviously simplify it or make it more complicated. And then just on the other side for her pant leg over here, just to break up the shape, you can always just add some V's here and there. And some squiggles to make it look like, hey, this pant leg has some shape. Like it has some wrinkles here and there, but we're just too lazy to draw it in. I think her pants are also very shiny, so I would suggest adding just some highlights here and there. Same for her shirt, I think it's also shiny. So something along the directions of those would be good enough. So let's take a look, just fixing up the poses here and there. So now she looks a little bit stockier, closer to that reference image, but also still feels like she's leaning against that chair a little bit more. All right, time to go to Jessie's. So let's see if we can do a faster, better way of doing the glitch effect. Let's see if I can separate some of these. So I'm gonna hide it. And if we're doing the glitch effect right here, honestly, what I would suggest is to just do the glitch effect like all the way through, like as the border here, instead of just putting that there. And that way you can get the full effect of that glitchiness. So let me cover up this line here. Hey, you can take my advice, take it or leave it, you know? Okay, cover that up right there. There. But I think you're getting better with your color choices, so good job on that. Could we ever imagine Jessie using colors like this? No, not previously. Oh shit, okay. There you go. Well, that's like the roughest cover-up job you'll see. So we're going to make use of our program and try to mess around with the channels in order to create the right effects that we need. I was like looking it up if there's like a specific filter you can do on like Clip Studio, but probably is. I didn't do a deep enough dive, obviously. Okay, let's do some separation of layers so we can not mess up anything. Okay. Okay, let's see if that works. We're gonna go into channels. You're gonna choose one or the other and just make sure you're selecting that you can see all of it. And we're gonna, oops. There's a way to do this. Am I crazy? Did I choose the wrong channel? Does not include all composite channels. Oh, do I have to select all of it? No way. How did I do this before? I'm like tripping, bro. Okay, let's do it this way. Hide this, merge these, see if we can do it that way. Okay. I'll try it this way. How did I do this before? Dude, it's been so long since I've messed around with this. I've totally forgotten how to do it. Ah, there. Okay, so let me go back to not merging them. So you choose whichever channel you want, and then you just make sure that you have it all seen, and then you'll go ahead and kind of just, and then where is it? Is it this one? No. No. Filter. Which one is it? I'm trying to remember where it is. Distort. Wave. Let's see if it is. We're gonna try to mess around with it and see which one works for us, basically. Right. Wavelength. No. Ooh, that's sick. That's too much. Maybe we'll make it smaller a little bit. And then you can always play around with like, hey, do you want like a triangle? And if you want less like extreme glitches, you can always mess around with the amplitude. So that seems like it's not enough. So we're gonna do more. Wave. Okay, so because this frickin' screen is so tiny, I wish the preview was humongous, but let's see if that one works. I think that's too much, but that would be such a cool if you know Hikaru, the summer Hikaru died. I feel like this would be such a cool effect. But no, that's not what we want. So it's honestly a lot of this stuff is just mess around, play around with stuff that works for you, right? I feel like that would be so cool for the alien entity, the outer world entity. Okay, let's see if we can. Oh shit, that would be sick. Okay, wait. Oh, that's close. That's almost there. It's almost there. It's almost there. Okay. I guess we're experimenting today, figuring out how to do this. Let's see if that would be too much. That's too much. Okay, so we can try that, and then you can choose like another one, and then like mess around with the colors and stuff some more, and then always you can play around with the different blending modes. So let me see if I can get rid of that stupid purple in there. We don't really need that purple. I mean, this might be cool. That might be cool. And at this point, it's all about like, hey, how do you want your thing to look? Oh, that'd be sick. That's kind of sick. Not gonna lie, that's kind of sick. Maybe we can mess around with just make sure when you go back to the RGB so you can mess around with the colors. Otherwise, it's gonna be a pain in the ass. And then we can always make it less strong. You can also do different layer and just erase some stuff that you want to be able to see. So like if you want to see more of it, you would, you know, I fucked up. I should have deleted the purple because now the purple's like in our faces about it. It's kind of being a bitch about it. So I'm gonna try to delete as much as I can, but if you like the hard light layer, but you don't like how the colors are working for you, you can always like make it lighter, and you can like mess around with the color choices to make it work better for you, right? Because I know you want it more like the purplish colors, so So this might be something. Oops. And then if we don't like how that's there, we can always just delete it. And then second option is if you don't like having to play around with Photoshop like that, you can always do a little bit of photo bashing. So let's see. Taking a look at glitches, and you can kind of just photo bash some of these textures into your work. Let's see what might be cool. Maybe this one. No, that's not. Let me see if I can get a PNG of this without having to pay. No. Okay, worst comes to worst, you don't like it, we'll work with this. We're just gonna play around with our layer styles till the one that you like kind of pops up. Let me merge all of them together so we're not playing with all of them individually. I mean, this might be a cool effect that you might like. And then all that we would have to do is kind of just erase some of it. So I would use a blocky brush and just start erasing some parts here and there. If that's too hard, you can always use a selection tool to get those really crisp edges. Just make sure you're paying attention to like where you're erasing it. And you want to try to kind of vary the shapes of it. So maybe some areas you won't have it so long, some of them you'll be a little bit bumpy. And basically I'm kind of looking at this negative space, like what am I doing? So this might be a little bit more tedious because you're not just doing big sweeping texture, you're kind of having to manually go in and kind of fix some of the spacing. But this is an option if you don't have the capabilities to do filters and everything. And then once you're kind of done with like erasing the stuff that you want, you can always go ahead and just add a little bit of motion blur to the glitch, so that way it doesn't look so like perfect and you have a little bit more blending between the actual figure and the thing. But this one obviously is going to apply a little bit of color to the original image instead of using the original, you know, using this image in order to add some stuff. But hey, you know, it's an option. So personally for me, I kind of like to use this a little bit more. Obviously, if you like feel like, hey, I don't like how some of these colors are looking, you can just readjust a little bit so to bring back some of it. So if I want more of that pink and blues and I don't want some of that greens, maybe I'll just move around stuff a little bit more just to make things work. So we'll also go ahead and we'll do a little bit for this guy too. So go ahead and choose that red, make sure we select it, and then we'll go ahead and select that whole section, and you'll just, you know, play around with that a little bit. And that way you'll get a little bit more of that magenta right there. Once again, we play around with this stuff. We'll see, hey, what the heck do we want? Again, you can always mess around with the colors if you want to make it a certain color that you like better. And if you wanted to make it so that these two are actually blending together, obviously we'll have to do some separations. So you want to make sure that your layers are in where you need it to be. I will try my best to separate the layers to get the effect, but it might not be perfect. Think I got everything? Okay. Cut. Damn. Okay. And then we'll just fill in the gaps. And we're gonna merge the two together, and we'll go ahead and again play around with that wave and the channels. So we'll start again with that red, making sure that we can see it all. Move it a little bit, and we're gonna go towards that blue to get some of those magenta colors. And then I kind of want to get rid of that green if possible. So if you don't want so much green, then I would say you want to make sure we don't touch the red as often. Otherwise it's going to show more of the green and you're just going to mess around with the blues. Maybe something like that. And then we'll go ahead and mess around with it again. If you feel like that's too much, obviously you can go back and only do, like, say maybe that section is where you want it. That's an option, right? And you can erase as you want. Like if you feel like, hey, I feel like there's too much going on here, you can always erase a little bit more and get rid of that weird shit. And that would be like a much faster way to do it rather than doing blocks, which isn't to say like you can't do it, because if we're talking traditional wise, there's no shortcut to create a glitch effect, so obviously you just have to paint it yourself. But to save us some time and sanity, I would just recommend you do it this way, which is a lot faster. And you can always just, you know, add some more here and there. Like, hey, I like these colors. I can always erase some more of these if I just want to keep more of the colors. Right, like I think this would be a really cool thing. Obviously we're gonna have to erase a lot more of the glitch effects because you don't want it so much that it kind of overpowers the picture. So you should still be able to kind of see where they are at. So once you kind of got in those glitch effects, you'll just go ahead and kind of erase away for the main focus of the picture. So if the main focus is like their two faces, then I will just go ahead and kind of erase some glitch effects where I see like it's kind of obstructing how we see the characters and the storytelling, you know? And I would usually be erasing this with like a blocky brush so that we kind of keep some of the geometricness of it. So I might not want so much glitch effects on the sides, so I'll go ahead and kind of erase some of them. And this is where it's important for you to kind of label everything, otherwise you're gonna lose yourself. If at any point you're like, oh, I feel like I did too long of a, you know, glitch effect, you can always go ahead and just erase and fix it up just a tiny bit to make things make sense, right? Like that's what cleanup is for, so then you can have some cool effects without compromising, like, hey. I feel like there is an option where there's like an even faster way for Clip Studio Paint where it's like a filter, a chromatic aberration is what it's called, I think. And then you can just mess around with like the distort or the motion blur layers. Chromatic aberration. So it's under filter, quick effects. And then there's a chromatic aberration layer, and then if you want it to be more obvious, you just make the strength stronger. They didn't do it very strong, they did very weak. So yeah, totally possible. Like you don't have to mess around with like the channels as you have to do in Photoshop. But just an option. Just erasing some of these over here. Just so we're able to see the face better. So you'll get that really cool chromatic aberration. If you wanted to use this glitch effect to help you separate the two layers, like separate the two sides, I would just probably duplicate. I would probably just go ahead and kind of remove some of those like glitch effects on the sides, so that way we can tell like, hey, it's the middle that is focused on the glitching. And that way you can kind of see like, oh, this is the part that we're supposed to focus on. See, get you that artistic inspiration by messing around with your filters. So I find that just breaking out of the art block is to just try things that you never tried before. Try new medium, try new subject matters, try new tools. Sometimes those things can be really cool, what you can create with. And then, well, let me get rid of those so we can kind of talk about angles of the faces just real quick. And then the overall body structure, right? So I want to make sure. Oh, give me a second. Let's fix that part up a little bit. So that's not perfect. I obviously didn't take enough time to fix the waves and stuff, but whatever. We'll just pretend I fixed it. But in terms of the body type, in order to make him feel like he's like the slim muscular type, always the Dorito shape. Like even if he is not like Chris Evans Captain America physique style, we gotta create some semblance of a Dorito in order for him to feel a little bit more muscular, more superhero. So you want to make sure we go ahead and round out that chest just a little bit. And then make sure we kind of make the back wider. And then just add a tiny little bit of muscle definition. It doesn't have to be like a huge bicep, right? Like we're not talking about like he has to be bodybuilder status. But he definitely does need to have some kind of depth separation of forms so that he's going to look like he's superhero status, right? To differentiate him from normie status. Pretty sure this is part of the cape. So don't forget, even though he is at an angle here, we still gotta keep things aligned. So if I draw a line, angling his shoulders, right? So all of his shoulders lined up here, lined up here, lined up here. So that means even the ornaments gotta line up, right? So bring this down. And then we'll just make it a little bit highlighty on this side. Gotta go brighter, it's too similar to the background. The main issue was the glitches, but now we're just talking about like basic anatomies and stuff. So definitely right here, if we're deciding that this part of the neck is gonna get light, that means the rest of this right here should also get light. So it is fair and even. Sure, here might have some shadow because it's kind of underneath it, but I think that's also needs to be darker because we're saying that the sleeves are black, right? So even in the light, it shouldn't be as light as this one. And then we gotta create the pectoral muscle definition that happens where the armpit meets the pecs. So this shadow right here is super crucial in order to create that he is a very toned individual. So we're gonna use a blocky brush. I'm gonna create sort of this weird triangle shape. And we're going to separate it from the ribs and the side obliques. And then just where it's the roundest section, and as it tapers off, you can always use a little bit of soft brush to kind of taper it off. But you see how that's going to create definition in the chest a lot more. I didn't talk about it because the glaring issue to me was you not using your filters enough. And then we'll just bring this chin down just a little bit so it looks like he's kind of looking down and we're looking from bottom up. Because that's what this angle is telling me, like, hey, I'm supposed to see more of the bottom side, versus if you wanted him to be like straight to the side. I think we gotta adjust the nose a little bit, like the angle of the nose just a little bit so it feels like it's more to the side, but it's up to you. Also, like, see how the chin was wider on this side and then it's not wide on this side, so at least just to match it, you know. Oops. And then for the shape of this part of the headgear, I would probably do more of a diagonal so it's not so perfect. So we'll go for, you know, say something like this. And same for here, you don't want it to be too perfect because that's too boring. Oh, whoops. So we'll go for like a slight diagonal. And to try to make it a little bit more interesting, you can always add like some more divots here and there. I know, but that's like the general design, right? Like I'm not saying that would be like a good enough final design. So like maybe you can add some, you know, divots like this, or you can add some stuff that comes out. So maybe like there's an edge right here. Like there's multiple edges to this thing. I don't know. Play around with it, see what strikes your fancy, right? Like maybe you can do like multiple edges. So there's diagonal that way where it was like really flat, and then you need to do some, you know, contrasting angles. I just feel like when you're designing anything on a character, you want to make sure that there's like leading lines to help you bring the viewer's eyes around everywhere. So it helps to make it a little bit more diagonal. So now it's going to help you read, okay, we're really sharp, very sharp looking hero, right? Rather than like very blunt. And you can also add like another edge, like, hey, maybe there's like a smaller section right here, which might be cool to break up the shape a little bit more, right? The possibilities are unlimited. And then I would just probably make this like a metal piece. So if you remember how we make metal, we're gonna make some very harsh shadow shapes. It might not be 100% accurate to how metal is shaded, but it works. It kind of looks like metal. If it feels like metal, it smells like metal, sounds like metal, it's probably metal, right? And you just want to have some really harsh highlights to really sell the illusion that, hey, this is metal. Okay. That's like me being lazy about the metal. And then instead of using gray here, what I would probably do is either go for, let's go for more saturation. Let's see. No, it doesn't do that. Okay. So I'd probably go for like, oops, like a lighter version of the purple, or if you're trying to go for more contrasty colors, you can obviously go for crazier colors like that. And then if you're like really not sure, like, hey, I don't know where I want to go with this, you can play around with like the color hue saturation and just scroll through it, see like what kind of mood you're vibing with, right? Like what feels like right. You can always go more cool. You can go for like really crazy colors. So if you're going to go for crazy colors like this, then obviously you'll have to bring back some of this color to the other lighting area. But if you want to go for more subtle, we can just keep it to like a purple, but a little bit warmer, and then also a little bit lighter, just to make it feel like, hey, this is a bright area and it's not, you know, it's just great, right? Oops. And then same thing for your other character. We'll just go ahead and make sure that he's got that wider rib cage right here. and it's not too boxy for his chest. It's a little bit rounder. And there shouldn't be any weird wrinkles on the chest area. It should be after where the shirt starts falling off of the chest, we get those weird wrinkles. And just pay attention to how you already drew those wrinkles. We'll just match it, right? So now it's gonna feel a little bit more natural. And then make sure the shoulder connects to the neck. And you don't want the shoulder too far back, because when you're looking at yourself from the side, your shoulder usually isn't like super far back. Otherwise it just means that you're really contracting your scapula. It's usually a little bit like closer to the middle of the body. So we'll go ahead and just bring it closer to the front so it makes more sense. And just by doing it, it's going to give you a little bit more of a substantial character, right? Like he's not so skinny that he's not connecting in areas. And it's just small changes. I'm not changing the type of the face. That can stay because that's very cute anime style. Just want to clean up some of those shapes when you're doing the lighting. I'd probably use the same highlight color for the hair too, just to keep everything cohesive. And you may want to just shrink the amount of highlights that are in the hair or in this area at least, because this is supposedly in the shadow, so we shouldn't have so much highlight. So you just want to make it a little bit smaller. Erase a little bit of it, right? So now the hair is going to feel like a little bit more lighting wise makes sense. And I would also go ahead and make the lighting for the cape a little bit brighter, so you get that really strong light. So something like that would be good enough. So overall, with all the textures that we have, let's see if we can. So something like that would be a pretty cool idea. You can also just reduce some of the strength of some of these textures. So just so that they're not overpowering everything. So that's gonna be it for today's crit. Hopefully that helps break some of y'all out of your art block. I'll give you a little bit of, I'll give you a little preview of what I was working on for this month's tutorial. I'm not done with all the examples, but we'll be talking about how to go about with this. So stuff about skeleton mode, where we have overlaps, where do we do squishy mode, etc. But that should be finished up by, I want to say Monday or Tuesday, but give a girl some time. But it was fun having crit sesh with you guys, so hopefully we'll do this again next month. Maybe I'll do some random art streams to fill up some of the gaps. Have a great day, everyone, or great evening.